This is Spooky Talk with your host, Clyde Brown.
Welcome to Spooky Talk. Have you had a spooky experience? Call me, 313-633-1599. That's the number for the 24-hour Spooky Talk voicemail line. Leave a message if you have a spooky experience to share, a question or comment about the show. Call 313-633-1599. On this show, Barry Brickey, author of the paranormal horror novel, The Silence. Wayne David Parker, actor from the locally filmed horror movie Scream 4. Randy Stevenson, recording studio owner and teller of spooky experiences. Caller Bill Romaine tells of his haunted house. Canton Bellinger and the phenomena of the image of the old lady somehow captured on her window pane. And Paul Halterman, all kinds of stuff. But first, this is Spooky Talk on AM 1160 WCXI, also heard at midnight Saturdays on AM 1610.org, Hamtramck.
You're listening to Spooky Talk.
3 Doors Down Head Shop in Waterford carries pipes, hookahs, water pipes, hippie clothing, detox drinks, Michigan-made custom-blown glass, urine kits, tie-dye, vaporizers, and more. Perfect for gifts. Open 7 days and located at 5326 Dixie Highway, 1 mile north of Williams Lake Road. Call 3 Doors Down Head Shop at 248-618-3554. That's 248-618-3554.
Noir Leather, steamy fashion, located at 4th and Center in downtown Royal Oak. The latest clubwear, hot sexy shoes, glamorous wigs, steampunk, skull jewelry, spice, K2 incense, leather gear. Visit us at noirleather.com. Call 248-541-3979. Noir Leather, kinky and proud of it since 1983. Located at 124 West 4th Street in Royal Oak. Don't be afraid to stop by. Boo!
This is Clyde Brown for the law offices of Resnick and Moss in Bloomfield Hills. They can eliminate credit card debt, medical bills, utility bills, lawsuits. They can stop wage garnishment, home foreclosure, car repossession, harassing phone calls. Call 248-642-5400. That's 248-642-5400. Resnick and Moss in Bloomfield Hills. They helped me. They can help you too.
Now back to Spooky Talk, the talk show that's spooky.
My first guest is Barry Brickey, resident of Carlton, Michigan, and author of the paranormal horror novel, The Silence. He's also a big fan of the horror genre in movies and books, and welcome, Barry, to Spooky Talk.
Hi, Clyde. How are you doing today? It's great to be here.
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking.
Is Carlton like a smaller town?
Carlton is actually a village, so it's pretty small in size, but got a lot of great people in the area here, and I've lived most of my life in this area.
Your book is based upon a haunted farmhouse in Monroe, Michigan, and the story takes place in Caseville. Tell us about that.
Yes, sure. The book is based on an actual farmhouse in Monroe, Michigan, and my best friend's family used to rent the farmhouse, and when I was in my early teens, I used to go out there and visit all the time, and so many paranormal incidents happened there, and it was such a renowned house in that community that I always, since I was a young kid, I always wanted to write a story based on it. I developed the storyline to take place in Caseville based on just having fond memories of that area. My grandparents had built a cabin up there, and during my early days, I used to go out there during my summers, so I always wanted to do something nice for that area.
Cool. Barry, tell us more.
Glad to. I'll tell you, one of the first time that I ever had any type of paranormal incident that happened at this house was, I was probably around about 14 years old. And back then in those days, nobody locked the doors of their houses.
Yeah.
And my mom had dropped me off there to stay the night over there. And she dropped me off, and it was a mid-August day. It was really hot outside. But I remember walking inside their house. I knocked on the door, but just entered in, and the house was absolutely freezing cold. And I walked inside, and I stood in the living room, and I called out to anyone in the house, and nobody answered. So I'm standing in the living room, and above was my friend's bedroom, and I could hear somebody walking across the floor upstairs. And it wasn't just subtle. It was heavy footsteps.
Wow.
So thinking that he was up there, I ran up there to go check, and the room was empty. And subsequent rooms were also empty. So I called around. Suddenly had that feeling that I was being watched. So I ran downstairs, and I picked up the phone, and as I was dialing to call a neighbor to see if they were over there, I could hear the sounds of heavy footsteps coming down the stairs toward me. And just got freaked out. I ran out of the house. About 5 minutes later, their van pulled up with their whole family. I'd been alone in the house. So that was my initial fright night, I guess you could say.
Ooh, wow. Folks, you're listening to Spooky Talk, and I'm talking to author Barry Brickey, who is the author of a paranormal horror novel, The Silence. Barry, were there any other incidents that you incorporated into the book?
There were several. The majority of the incidents in the book are factual. And I had a chance to, based on what I witnessed in the house and what my friend's family witnessed, but also years later I had a chance to interview another girl that grew up in the house years after my friend's family moved out. And she recounted the same type of incidents that terrorized her when she was little. And it was so common to see things happen there. I mean, you'd be sitting in a room and the lights would just go out, and a door would open and slam, and you'd hear things walking around in the attic. And I remember the mother telling me once that she had felt, as far as being violated by fingers touching her with nobody there.
Oh.
So it was a really creepy house, and everyone in the community was really aware of it.
Boy, oh boy.
And an interesting story too. Something I left out of the book that just really creeped me out when I talked to my friend. He said the first time that he ever experienced anything, he was probably about 12 years old. He was sleeping in bed, and his door was slightly open, and the moon was coming through his window, so he could see silhouettes. And he seen this big dark shape walk in the room, and his stepfather was a big man, so he thought it was his dad. And the figure sat down on the bed next to him. The bed indented down, and he felt the pressure of it. And he looked over and said, "Dad, what's the matter?" And the figure was staring down at him, not saying anything. He said, "Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Didn't say anything else. Finally, after getting no response, he jumped and turned on the light switch, and he was alone in the bed.
Wow.
So that's something I left out of the book, but many incidents like that happen.
Folks, you're listening to Spooky Talk. I'm talking to Barry Brickey, author of the paranormal horror novel The Silence, which is a work of fiction, although he incorporates real-life paranormal incidents into the book. Please tell us a little bit about the fictional aspect.
Sure, I'd love to. The story is basically about a mother and her two young children. She relocates from Florida, leaving an abusive relationship out of her marriage, and she begins to start her life with her children, and she goes to visit her brother who lives in Kaysville, Michigan, and she purchases the old farmhouse, and unbeknownst to her, there's paranormal activities that are going on that her children are aware of, that she's not aware of, and she believes that because of the move, the traumatic experience, the separation, that's what's fueling the children's imagination with this. So as the book goes along, more and more suspenseful things happen, and it's really about the family bonding and becoming one to overcome the odds.
Wow, that sounds great. Well, Barry, you know I've been wanting to interview you for quite some time now. The Silence, your book, is available to purchase at Borders and Walden Books and any online retail seller such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or drop by his site, barrybrickey.com. That's BARRYBRICKEY.com. I'm so glad we could finally talk. So the website, is that the best way to get a hold of you?
If they go to my website, there's a link on there for Facebook. And
cool.
They can also find out more about as far as what music that I do and what book signings that'll be at. And the Facebook is actually Barry K. Brickey. There's another Barry Brickey in Kentucky who I'm actually friends with, and so just don't want any confusion if someone goes looking for Barry Brickey. There's a K in there.
Well, thank you so much, Barry Brickey, for being on Spooky Talk.
Clyde, it's been my pleasure, and as you are, I'm a huge horror fan, and I just love the genre, and it's exciting to be able to talk with others that are very enthusiastic about it also.
Cool, yes. You're listening to Spooky Talk, the talk show that's spooky, here on AM 1160 WCXI, also heard at midnight Saturdays on AM1610.org Hamtramck. And I invite you to drop by the website spookytalk.com. Call now 313-633-1599. That's the number for the 20